about Vmotion. These are the prerequisites for Vmotion. Let me again tell shared storage, but again, remember VMware ESXi 5 onwards. That means from 2011 onwards, Vmotion can be done without shared storage. There is a possibility that it can be done. I wanted to test that. I have never done it. It's not from 2011. It's actually from version 5.1 onwards. It is there. I was reading some 2012 book. Actually, 2012 also, Hyper-V 2012 also has that feature, which was implemented recently. With 2012. So shared storage is not a must, but typically shared storage is a must, or if you say shared storage is a must, then let us understand it like that. Processor compatibility, you know what that means. You know what is VM port group needs to be same. The name has to be same. VM kernel port group needs to be enabled. Vmotion that needs to be enabled. We'll look into that. It should be on the same vCenter. If your the source and destination ESX server should be on the same vCenter in order to do Vmotion. So here is the picture. This is what the Vmotion. Let us just take an example here. Let us say this blue VM is this. So the blue VM is here. Let us say this VM's name is X, and the VM's complete files, folders, everything is here. That's called the state of a VM. The VM is running, and the VM's active memory is right now on the RAM of this server. So this is where the VM is currently running. The processor here is doing the needed thing. Let us say this is a web server or whatever it is. So now when you say Vmotion it, or when you enable Vmotion, or when you do a hot migration, which is much more clear term, when you do the hot migration of this VM from, let's say, from server A to server B, these are some of the things that happens. I'm just going through some top level thing, but I think that will be more than enough to explain. So when you enable Vmotion, this is exactly what happens. VMware, the technology of Vmotion has changed a little bit in the past. In the few recently last 2 years, the technology in the past was little different. So what it does is basically it actually copies the whole memory. It's a copy, not a move. Remember, it copies this complete memory from this server to this server's memory. So what happens is it makes a copy of the same memory here. So that is become blue, right? It's a copy. But remember, so the copy is happening through the VM kernel port group. That is the most important thing. You know that this is a switch. Every server is attached through a VM kernel port group, right? We enable the VM kernel port. So ESX servers can only communicate using VM kernel port group. And the Vmotion traffic, that means what is Vmotion traffic means? See, Vmotion is only dealing with the active memory. The movement of this memory from here to here is what exactly Vmotion is doing. It does not have to do anything with the storage, because the storage, the VMDK file, the VMX file, and all other crap, whatever it is, it can be seen by both servers. What this server B cannot see is actually the memory of this server. So that is what the Vmotion process do. Vmotion copies the contents of this memory through the Vmotion network. That is why I was telling the Vmotion network has to be a gigabit connection at the minimum, so that it can move this memory fast enough to this server. So it is a copy process. It copies that memory. But when it copies the memory, you know that this server is a web server. We talked about as an example, this is a web server. This web server is keep on changing the memory because there are many activities happening. So that is called as dirty memory. The memory in this, even though you made a copy of this, things are getting changed here. So over a period of time, it copies the deltas, whatever is changing, it will be copied from this server to this server over the file. It takes up some time to do that. Typically, a good Vmotion will happen in less than 1 minute, less than 30 seconds, depending on the speed. Some large VMs take more time. If the VM is not doing many things, it may be much more faster and all. But anyway, first process is when you enable Vmotion, it actually copies the memory here. A copy of what is there will be copied here, but as it's copying that 1 GB, let us say this is a 1 GB memory, it makes that 1 GB copy here. But at the time it was copying that 1 GB over this Vmotion network, some memory in that 1 GB will get dirty, or will get changed. Now that change needs to be copied here. Then by that time that small change will get copied, some other portion of the memory will get changed. So that is an ongoing process. On a busy server, it will keep on changing that process. So there will be a time, there has to be a time when the change will be minimum. Minimum means it will be a very fast process. So at one point, what the Vmotion process does is, once it sees that, okay, I have almost 99%, that is a VM kernel's algorithm. The VM kernel calculates that. We don't have any control on it. But when VM kernel know that, okay, you know what, now this memory and this memory is pretty much like 99%, they both are in sync. Vmotion process makes a pause of this VM and it stays, okay, now onwards you write all the changes to a delta file or a bitmap file. Basically it asks it to write to a bitmap file. A bitmap file is a small memory file. It says, okay, now onwards you write the changes to that bitmap file. This is all happening in milliseconds or in microseconds. Okay, these are very fast processes. I'm just trying to explain, so don't think that, oh, okay, how it is. This is all happening in an instantaneous, very fast processes, maybe in a second or so. So when it comes to 99%, it tells this VM, hey, you know what, don't write anything to here, to the memory, write it to a bitmap file. At that point of instance, there are a couple of things happens on the VM. First thing is, this ESX server can see the VMX file here, isn't it? So it looks at the VMX file. It creates a VM here. You know, creating a VM is what? Just a VM shell. How can it create the VM shell and how does it know if this VM shell should have this much memory, this much processor, things like that? It knows that from the VMX file, because the VMX file is the configuration file. The VMX file has every information. Is that correct? So it creates a VM here, power on that VM, and points the memory to here, and also it does a last minute cutover. Two things it does. It deletes this VM or unregisters this VM from here. It changes the final copy, that's a final cutover copy of that delta, and merge it with this memory. Now this is the active memory. It creates a new VM, it starts the new VM, and then it also do one more last thing. It do this ESX server will do a reverse address lookup, RARP protocol. Using reverse address protocol, it informs, this ESX server informs the upstream switches, hey, you know what, this VM with that so and so MAC address is no more here, it is in somewhere else. So the RARP process, the reverse address lookup process, inform the switches or the upstream switches that, hey, you know what, this VM is not here, this VM is now on here. So if let us say if Aravind was sitting here and Aravind was accessing this VM through this NIC card like this, now if Aravind comes through here, does he see the VM? No. So the Aravind's network, the upstream switch on the top, will be notified by this ESX server saying that, you know what, this VM with that MAC address is no more here, that is here. So this all happens in nanoseconds or in microseconds. Okay, I just went little deeper to explain that, you know, you don't need to really know these things. Vmotion means how to do Vmotion, what it is, but this is, I don't think you can find any article or anything that explains this. I got it from some other old VMware seminars. I got this information. So that's why I'm trying to explain this. So this is how Vmotion, and now the VM is here, it will be change the control and it will continue to work. I know you might have not understand it completely. I might have missed a lot of things, and unfortunately what I did is I screw up this page. So let me try to draw this picture one more time and explain it quickly. I think that will be better. So I have an ESX server here. I have an ESX server here. I have a VM here. I have a shared storage here. The shared storage is shared between these two servers. This VM state, the VM is in this shared storage. So let us say this is the VM. The VM is yellow color VM, and the files are here. This VM has a memory. This is the memory of this ESX server. This is the memory of this ESX server. This VM's current state is inside this memory. Let us say that is, this is the memory. There is a, you know, every ESX server will have its uplink. You know, let us say this is your management network or VM network port. There is one network card. There is another network card for your management interface. And you can use that. Let us say this is used for your VM connection. This is for VM network, and this is for management and Vmotion. Both uses this NIC. Let us just take that. This NIC is connected to a physical switch. This ESX server also has two network cards. I'm just putting a simple picture here. This is the Vmotion and management NIC. This is used only for VM traffic. So you know all those things, right? What is NIC card used for and all. So this is the same thing here also. It is connected like this. Maybe I can put this red line for the Vmotion and management network. Let us say this is the Vmotion and management NIC. And the green one is for the VM traffic. So the VM is actually communicating to the outside world using this green NIC card. The ESX server management is done through the red one. ESX server's Vmotioning is happening through the red network. If it has two shared storage, does that also move storage from ISKC to? No, it does not. No, that is a different technique. We will talk about that later. We are talking about Vmotion. Vmotion is the process of moving the active state, the memory of the mem. So storage, the other one is called storage Vmotion. We'll talk about it later. So this is the condition now, and I'm going to do Vmotion. If I want to move this VM, that is my end goal. So when I start that Vmotion process, this is exactly happens. I'm just repeating the whole step again. The process copies this entire memory and put it here. Whatever is possible, it will copy from here and put it here. But at the time, so let us say this is 2 GB memory. The 2 GB has to be copied using this red line, that is through the Vmotion network. It copies from here to here. At that point, some portion of this memory will be getting changed by the VM. Some memory will be getting changed. Let's say that portion, this portion, and this portion gets changed. That is called as dirty memory, because during the process it got changed. Now the Vmotion process has to copy those changes to here. So those changes came here. But by the time it copies that changes, some other changes happened. So it can keep on happening. So on a very busy server, the percentage of dirty memory is much more. So that means the time taken to complete a Vmotion will be more also, because the memory is keep on changing. But at a point where the VM kernel finds that, okay, I have almost 90% or 99% is there, it creates a small delta file here or a bitmap file here and say, you know what, don't write anything to the active memory, store everything in that bitmap. Bitmap is a file inside the memory itself. That particular time period, there are a couple of things happening. I'm not going to get into the very much detail of it. What happens is there is actually a small pause happens to this VM. The VM kernel process, look at this VMX file inside this. It creates a, basically it creates a new VM here with the exact same configuration. It all happens in nanoseconds. You don't even see that. It creates a new VM here, gives it the same color, it power on that VM and it gives the control back to this memory. At that point, it will delete the memory as well as it deletes this particular VM from here. It deletes that VM from here. It removes the memory from here. It power on the VM and everything. But at the same time, it do one more thing. That is what that reverse address lookup thing I was mentioning. It does one more thing. This ESX server will inform the switches, because when this VM was here, remember when this VM was here, let us assume that Aravind is sitting here and Aravind wants to communicate to this VM. What would have been Aravind doing? Aravind would have been doing like this. Aravind will come through this switch. His traffic will come through this network, and it was talking to him. But now, Aravind does not know this is Aravind's packets are coming. There may be one or two packet drops may happen, but Aravind, now the VM is here or not? Is the VM here? The VM is not here. The VM is now here now. So that is when at that process, this ESX server will do a notify the upstream switches. It will inform this switch, hey, you know what? This MAC address is not here now. It is here. So when Aravind's packet comes, this switch knows that it should send the packet to here and not to here. You understand? So those many things happen during a Vmotion, and that's how the Vmotion process gets completed. Okay? So let us go and do a Vmotion here. So if you remember about go to a switch and look at the switch properties. You remember, if you know, there in the tick theming property, there was a property called notify switches. You see that? This notify switches has to be yes in order to work for that switch to inform. So this definitely make sure that you keep that open. Okay? Otherwise, your address resolution may not work. It may work, but it can fail. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at this server. Let me see what all we can do. This is a 250. This is a 280. I know I can do Vmotion between this. This is also a 280, I think, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a Vmotion here. Let us try to do it here. So here there is a problem. So you can see that it has a 100 MB connection here. That's okay. It can do Vmotion there. Let me look at the network. So this is 1000 full. This has 1000 full. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure this. I'm starting from this 97. I wanted to create a VM kernel port group, and I want to enable that VM kernel port group to do Vmotion. So I'm going to create a new port group. I told you I don't have to do that. I can use this existing one itself, but I wanted to keep the ISKC traffic and the management traffic separate. So because of that, I'm going to create a new VM kernel port group. And as we said, I'm going to call it as Vmotion. And I'm going to say use this port group for Vmotion. I'm going to give it an IP address. I think we use some IP address. I think I can use 165. 10.10.10.165, 255. Okay, so that's the IP address of this VM. So this is done. So you look at what I'm doing here carefully. To do Vmotion, you have to have these things. So I created a Vmotion port group, enabled that port group. You know that I enable the property. If you go to that Vmotion thing, you can see that I have Vmotion enabled. Good. I'm looking at this. I think we configured that here. No, we didn't do that for here. I think for 95 we did that, right? Vmotion 120. And just make sure that Vmotion is enabled there. Okay, Vmotion is enabled. Good. Looking at this server. Vmotion network is there. Vmotion is enabled. Now it's good. Now the second important thing, let us pick a server to do Vmotion. Is there any Ubuntu server or something? Okay, is there any small VM? And anybody has a small VM, right? And I don't want to do a big VMs because it takes a lot of time. I don't want to do that because we have small network and all. But I just want to show you guys that Vmotion can work properly. So is there any Ubuntu? This is Ubuntu VM, right, Gene? How much memory is there? Let me see. Okay, this is a good VM. If it is having operating system, let us do this. Okay, this has a snapshot. So I'm not. You cannot Vmotion a VM when there is snapshot. We'll talk about that. That is being fixed in this one, but I'm going to remove that snapshot for a minute. Okay. We will test those things later. Okay. Gene, what is the password for this VM? What's happening? How do I know it? There is nothing here. I don't know. Okay, there's no problem. That's why I said I need more VMs. There are no other VMs here to do tests. Okay, where is CentOS? That's 2 GB RAM. Is there any other CentOS? Okay, this one. Okay. That also has 2 GB RAM. 2 GB RAM will take a lot of time to do Vmotion, but that's fine. I'm going to do that. This is also safe. Okay, so I'm bringing, this is the IP address of this CentOS VM. Guys, look at it. This is the IP address of this VM. And I'm also pinging the DC from this server, okay? So you can see that that is pinging continuously from this server. This CentOS server, I'm pinging the DC. You know, DC means this is my server. This is my physical server. It's a Dell server. And from the Dell server, from this particular server, I am pinging this CentOS. I mean, I just want to make sure you guys can see that I'm doing that pinging. Now I'm going to do the Vmotion. Why I'm doing that? I wanted to make sure that there is no disconnect, everything. I'm going to move this VM. This is right now on 95. This VM CentOS is currently running on 95. I'm moving that to 91 without any service interruption. That is what I am going to do. Okay. So before doing that, I have to make sure certain things. What virtual machine port group this VM is. This VM is on VM network. So this server should have a network called VM network. Right now we have a port group called VM network. So that is okay. So is the processor between these two servers are same? We know that they are same. They are from the same family. There is a small difference there, but that is okay. We will see if there is a problem. No, it is not going to work. Okay, this is not going to work. Shit, that's another problem. This is on a different processor. We'll see. I'll show you the problem. Now the error is going to happen because it says processor problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Vmotion this. So in order to do Vmotion, you don't see any key called Vmotion. Vmotion is called as migrate. When you click on the migrate button, you see an option called change host. You know that this VM, okay, before that let me check another thing. Is this VM sitting on a shared storage? Is it sitting on a shared storage? It is not sitting on a shared storage. So let us see whether we can do Vmotion or not. So let me do this migrate. The VM is running. I got this option and I'm going to say change host, and now you see what happens. So I wanted to change from 95 to 91. So I'm going to click on 91. And here you go. There are many errors are coming. If you see these red alerts, it's not going to work. First itself, it says that the virtual machine requires hardware features unsupported. The possible use enhanced Vmotion capacity. That is the processor problem. It is saying the CPU ID details incompatibility. That means the CPUs are not correct. That is one error. Then it is saying unable to access. 91 is saying, okay, 91 is talking about all these problems. 91 says, the CPU of this VM is not understandable by me, so I cannot do that. Then it is saying unable to access the virtual machine configuration. That means 91 is saying I cannot see the VMX file of this VM. Can anybody tell me why 91 is saying it says I cannot see the virtual machine VMX file? Because it is on the local storage of the other server. If it is on the local storage, it cannot be seen. So that is another problem, right? And then it is saying the same problems also. So this is definitely not possible to do this Vmotion at this point. So what I'm going to do is, so how can I move this VM from this ESX server to another ESX server? Can I move it? And can I also move it to a shared storage? Is it possible? How can I do that? Okay, we have to do a cold migration. So I'm going to power off this VM for now. I power off, that the ping will fail. You can see that now the ping will fail here. See, the ping is already started failing because that server is powered off, correct? So now I can see that it is timing out. All right, so now I'm going to right click on this. Again, it is the migrate option, but this time we're going to do a cold migration. But now you see that I got the third option enabled, because now I can change the host as well as the data store, both things one time, because it is powered off. It is just a file copy now. This is what is going to happen. Click next. Here, I'm going to move it to, let us say, to 96 or 97. I'm moving it to 97. Validation succeeded. Everything is, there's no problem because there is no memory issues, nothing to check. It's a powered off VM. It's asking in which storage you want to move. So I have only two options here. There are two storage. I can see an NFS storage with 71 GB free space and an 18 GB. What is the size of the VM? I think I can move it to this ISKC2. I'm moving it to ISKC2 and finish. Let's wait for that copy process to happen. So you can now see that it is relocating the VM, meaning the VM kernel is basically copying all the files of this VM from this storage to ISKC2, and also at the end of that it is going to migrate or to unregister this VM from this and going to register it on 97. So in 97, do we have a networking called, let me see, in 97 do we have a virtual machine network? Yeah, it's called VM network is there. So it is going to move there. Let us see what happens. Okay. Once that is done, then we can do a Vmotion. Okay, failed because this 62 is closed. Underlying connection was expected kept available always closed. Some error happened. I don't know what happened. First time I'm seeing a problem like this. What is 62 actually, guys? We were talking about 62. 62 is Vcenter, right? Okay. So Vcenter is having some problem. I think it is having problem because of the license. I don't know. Vcenter was running somewhere here, right? This is Vcenter, right? The migration is happening, okay, don't worry about that. I'm seeing that the refresh rate is also very slow to nowadays. I don't know what is going on. Let's see. I don't see any issues here, but that's okay. Okay, so this is taking some time. That's why I said, I normally don't do with these large VMs, but we have to wait for this now.
Deepu, meanwhile, I had a question for you.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be a good practice to have Vcenter on a separate physical server? Because if your ESX goes down, I mean, you can't manage all other servers from one place. You have to log into each ESX server.
Yeah, we will address that when we get on the cluster. So at that point, you understand why it is okay to run on a VM. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, it is at this point, what said makes sense. If ESX server 96 goes down, Vcenter 5 goes down, which means you don't have Vcenter, but nothing happens to the VMs. Okay, you have to understand, when the Vcenter down means nothing happens to other VMs running on ESX servers. They will go all running, but you will not be able to do Vmotion, you will not be able to do cloning, you will not be able to create templates, you may not be able to do templates, you won't be getting alarms. You won't have any clustering features. All that vSphere capabilities you will lose, correct? But the VMs will be running on their appropriate ESX servers. There won't be any problem. But if your vCenter is not there, it's a problem, correct? But we will talk about that, why it is why it is recommended to keep vCenter on a VM itself. We'll talk about that. But in some companies, they have a practice of keeping vCenter on a physical server. That is what you are asking, correct?
Yes, Deepu.
So what happens if that physical server goes down? Which is same as ESX server going down. That is also a physical server. ESX server is also a physical server. What happens if that physical server where you have vCenter installed goes down? Then also you have a bigger problem. Then you should look at having a Microsoft clustering enabled for vCenter. Does vCenter support Microsoft clustering? Yes, it does support Microsoft clustering. So if you want, you can have Microsoft clustering. Then if one node fails, that is what the purpose of Microsoft clustering, actually high availability. VMware also has a different product. They actually purchased a company almost 4 years back, which is called as VMware Heartbeat. So vCenter can be configured as a Heartbeat server. That means you can have two VMs running the same thing. So the other server will always be act as a passive node. You don't need Microsoft clustering. Without Microsoft clustering, you can have another vCenter running the same instances. There are many techniques, but it is not highly recommended, or there is not much need. As long as you have your vCenter database backup, you can install vCenter in less than 15-20 minutes, correct? You saw that. In a fast environment, I can bring up a new vCenter in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or worst case in half an hour, if I have a good backup of my database. All I care is the database, because database is very important, because you're going to lose all your folder structure, you're going to lose all your permissions, you're going to lose all your alarms and its settings if you lose the database, because all this information, including the performance data of all your last 2-3 years of performance statistics, everything is stored in the database. So the database is important, and it is definitely, it will be in a big companies, and all the database will be on a shared SQL cluster or an Oracle cluster that will be backed up every day, or on log shipping ways every 15 minutes. So you can always get a backup. So as long as you have a backup, all I need is find a Windows server, install the Vcenter application software. At that point, it will ask you, do you want to create a new Vcenter, or do you want to restore from a database? Just restore from the database and you're good to go. I mean, that's all worst case scenarios. I had went through those kind of issues when we had issues with our Vcenter in the past. I mean, that's all, only the practice and experience can get that. But I'm saying it is all possibilities are there. But answering to your question, you said, Deepu, you are running it as a VM on 96. What happens if 96 goes down? Sure, Vcenter file goes down. Now how do you manage? You cannot do anything. That's true. So you said, Deepu, put Vcenter on a physical server outside of the VMware environment. Good idea. Then there is no problem. If something goes wrong with ESX, you will not have problem, because Vcenter is a total separate standalone server. But what happens if that standalone, it is also a physical server, it can go down. There also you have problem. So there are many options. So I understand your question, we'll talk about it. So now you can see that CentOS is come to here. Correct? Everybody agreed? CentOS come here. If you click on that VM, you can see that it is on the iSCSI2 storage, and it is on the VM network, and it is powered off. So I'm going to power on that VM now. Hopefully it will get the same IP address, because I only have one DHCP server in this whole environment. So hopefully it will get the same, the DHCP will assign the same thing. If it comes back, you can see that it is pinging now. Let us do that. Let us see what happens. So you all understanding, if you don't understand, please ask me, okay, why I moved from 96 to 97 using cold process. Why did I do that? Because I cannot do Vmotion from 96, because 96 is having a totally different CPU family than other servers. That is the first problem. If the CPU was okay, I could have still not do Vmotion, because it was on a local storage. But at that point, I could have just done a storage Vmotion. I can move that VM without powering off the VM. I could have moved the storage. That is what Arvind was asking earlier. I will talk about that in a minute. Once this is done, we will do that. And I'll explain how storage Vmotion works. But that was also not possible. That's why we moved the VM as well as the storage to a different host and a different storage. So that VM is coming up. It is still not got the IP address yet. Let me see what's happening. Okay, it is up, but it is not pinging. Jim, did you give it a static IP address or what?
Static IP address.
Okay, then it should work, right? Okay, that all looks good. We didn't give static IP address. It is 10.10.115. It got a new IP address now. You see that? So you didn't use static IP address. It's working. It can ping 10.10.2. That is my lab server. So this is not going to work now, because It is, we are pinging 176. So its IP address is 115, correct? Okay, here we go. So are you all okay on that? From the CentOS VM, I'm pinging my Windows server, which is a physical server, which is outside of the VM environment itself. And from the physical server, I'm pinging the VM also. Okay, just to make sure that the connections are there. I just want to know what is happening when we do Vmotion. So this is the VM. You can all see the VM here. So let me put it here now. Just making the screen a little slow show here. And I'm going to do a Vmotion of this VM now. Migrate, change host, and I'm going to 91. When I click on 91, see, it now says validation succeeded. That means it says everything is good. High priority or low standard priority, typically everybody do it high priority, means it will be immediately start migration. Next, and finish. I have started the Vmotion process. And you can see that the VM is still getting pinged. You can see that everything is happening. The ping, you look at this thing carefully. The ping is not doing anything. It is doing, the VM is up and running. It is moved. See now, CentOS is now here. It is happened 2 GB RAM. Everything is moved. Now where is this VM now? CentOS 6 is now on 96. It is on 91 on the same storage. Did you see that? Without moving that VM, without powering off the VM, everything happened. This is called Vmotion. This is, guys, believe me, VMware found this technology almost 10 years back. It was a great technology, and that is why this Vmotion technology becomes so popular. I don't think anybody had that proper thing. That's why Vmotion itself is VMware's registered thing. But now every company is having, live migration from Hyper-V, Zen has it, KVM has it, everybody has it. But this is what is Vmotion. But again, I don't think it was VMware's own technology. I think IBM mainframes had this technology even 25 years back. But they never explored that to this level. That's another problem. Virtual machines and these concepts were there earlier. But I think Vmotion is actually VMware's own technology. But now every company has it. Okay, so Fanny, no problem. You can. I have to continue with the class. Okay, so you check with somebody to get a recording. Okay, guys. Anybody has a recording? Share it with him. Okay.
Deepu, Vmotion sounds good and all. Is it really practically used that much in the industry?
It is practically used, means the whole industry runs on this technology. Without that, this technology is no good. It is highly used, heavily used. In my office, I said daily at least 400 to 500 Vmotions happens among our thousands of servers. So Vmotion is highly used.
Okay.
It is. I mean, when I say it is heavily used. Okay. So this is Vmotion now. It is 91. I can move it to 95. You see now what I'm going to do? Migrate, change host, 95. See, can I move it? When it comes to 95, it is giving me problems. Because we have problems with storage and also with processor. Can I move it to 96? It is giving me an error, but it's a different error. Can anybody tell me what is this problem? It is an error. You don't even get, when you see this red alert, you will not even see this next button. So there are two problems it is saying. Can anybody explain what are the problems? Okay, Satya is saying network. What is network? What is problem, Satya? That is correct. The port group name is not same. So there is no network adapter 1. There is no network called VM network, and also the Vmotion interface is not configured. So what we have to do is we have to go to 96. And look, is there anything called VM network here? There is no port group called VM network. You can create it here also. So I'm going to create it on this switch just to show you that it is possible. So I'm creating a virtual machine port group called VM network here. So that means I met with my first deal. So I have VM network now. Now let us try to Vmotion it one more time. Migrate, change host to 96. Now you see that we only have one issue left because I fixed the other problem. Now the ESX host 96 has a VM network. Now it is saying Vmotion is not enabled. True. So Vmotion is not enabled. So what can I do? I need to enable Vmotion. What should I do for that? Okay, edit the port group. Which one? What should I do? I'm not going to do. Somebody has to tell me what should I do. Somebody has to tell me what should I do. Create VM portion. Okay. Okay. Arvind, if you're not speaking, please set it on. Okay. Santosh is saying on IceKC enable. That's a good option. You can enable it on IceKC or NFS. But since the storage is on IceKC, I'm going to enable it on this NFS port. I can create a new Vmotion port group. That's absolutely fine. I can create a new VM kernel port group, give the IP and all. But instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to the NFS thing, edit that, and I'm going to enable that for Vmotion also. You see that? All it needs is a VM kernel port group with Vmotion enabled. That's it needs. That's why I was telling you earlier. So I did that, and now let us try to do a Vmotion. Change host, and it succeeded. Okay, next, and finish. And you can see that the migrate virtual machine, it is actually moving. This is what is it moving now here? Is it moving the VMs files or anything? It is only moving the active memory of that VM from this server to here, and the registers and all that things which I explained. That is exactly is happening here. So this is a 2 GB RAM. This VM has 2 GB RAM. If you look here, you can see that it has 2 GB of RAM. And that is why it is taking a little longer. And also we have a small, network, and my networks are not that fast, and also that's why it is taking a little time. But you can see it's happening very fast. It's happening. So in a real environment, a Vmotion will happen. In our environment, in my office and all, a 4 GB can happen in like 30 seconds, 25 seconds. It will be done. But if you have a 24 GB RAM or a 48 GB RAM VM, you are trying to Vmotion, it can take up to 5 minutes. A Vmotion of a 4 GB RAM VM can take also 5 minutes if the VM is getting or dirtying his memory very fast. Right? It can happen that way also. So that is the Vmotion, guys. Let me just say, I never tried, and I don't think it's priority, but I just wanted, I'm curious to see, I heard, you can do Vmotion without shared storage in Vcenter file, with the help of vSphere plugin. Anybody remember what was 65? What was the vCenter IP address, guys? Is it 62? Okay, then why is it not coming up?
Maybe the service is down or something?
Yep. So the new vSphere functionality, I heard from somewhere that it is only available using web interface because VMware wanted to move everybody to there. So that feature is only available in the web interface. Let us see where it is. I don't know, but let us see if we can find that out. I think my computer is running very slow. What's happening? Come on. Is anybody trying to do Vmotion or something? What the heck is going on? Something is wrong with that VM actually. This is not the Vcenter, this is a different machine. 10.10.62 is a different machine. That is not our Vcenter. What is this error means? I don't know. What is the problem with that VM? It's not Vcenter. The name of the VM was, the name of the Vcenter, Vcent, right? Why is it showing Vcenter? I'm not understanding that. Why is it saying Vcenter? Did anybody change the name? It should be Vcent 5, yeah. Why is it showing Vcenter? Is that the right VM we are talking, guys? I doubt. Where is Vcent 5? $64. This was the VM, right? See, this is the VM. This is something else. Somebody did something here, man. That's the problem. Vcent, that is the actual VM. Even that is having some problem. I think something went wrong here. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, that is not the VM. It is 64. 10.10.10.64. That's what we are connected also, right? Vcent 5, correct. So this is the VM. Okay, now I got it. Don't worry about it. Again, it is saying the same thing. It's showing Vcenter 5. Why is it called Vcenter? I think somebody cloned that VM or something happened, okay? Anyway, that's fine. Don't do that, man. I think somebody has cloned that VM. Something really happened. And that is why all these problems we are seeing. There were many VMs to do it. So it is known as Vcent 5. You see that? And it has a second network card. I don't know who created the second network card here. This is 64. So who cloned this VM? Anyway, whoever it is done as administrator. This is why I don't give that password and all. Anyway, that's fine. Somebody has did this, but he is very clever. He did this using an administrator ID. Okay, you can see that it is cloned, and that created all the problems. Anyways, we are losing time also. If you want to clone, you build a VM and clone, or clone something else. Don't clone the Vcenter. That's the problem, right? I'm still not understanding why is it going to Vcenter. Yes, Santosh, your question, yes, it is possible. When this is the first class, I am allowing Vcenter to be played by you guys. Normally, I have another host, which is not added here. I have a host called 202. I normally keep Vcenter there. I install it there, and no disturbance. So that's how I should do it. I think going forward, next batch onwards, I will be doing that. This is actually, we're losing many time because of these problems. Not only this, even last class also we lost some time because of server going down and all. Oh, good. Did anybody install any other? Did anybody install any DNS server or anything in your DHCP or something? Sujan, I don't know. I think I wanted to finish it in 4, 5, 6 days, 5 days or so, but it's a Sunday class. But we lost one class yesterday. Today also, you see that it is getting delayed. I thought of doing many other things today, but we are still doing Vmotion. So I don't know. Where is the single sign-on? Otherwise, what you're taking? Let me see your thing. Show your screen. Where is what is working? What are you talking about? You're talking about Vcenter working? That is working before also. Vcenter is working, man. Yes, Vcenter, Vcenter is working. I'm trying to make the web interface working. I'm going to reboot this VM anyway. Vcenter is going to go down. What is happening, guys? It's not coming up. I don't know. Shit. No, Sri, that's not the problem. Reinstall is okay. We can. I don't think the problem is the server itself is not coming up, and I cannot connect using this problem because of this problem. That's another problem. I don't know whether the server is up. I'm not able to see whether the VM is up. I think it is up now. The mouse is there now, but it's still not getting an IP. I mean, it's not pinging. First of all, it's not getting the IP address.
I was able to get to the 62 address.
No, it was working. Not now, right?
Let me check.
Not now. We actually powered off and restarted the server.
Yeah, not anymore.
That's okay. That name was changed. That's nothing.
Did we turn off the firewall on that?
Everything was down. It was working, man. So
it's not coming to the control alt delete at all?
no.
Can you restart and see that if it can go to safe mode or something?
Now here I cannot see anything. That's a different problem. But my expectation is that if the VM is up in the back, it should come up with this IP address. The IP is not pinging, so that means there is problem with the VM.
What is Vcenter 5-1? Did you rename that?
Yeah, it was named like that. That is the Vcenter. There is no question. This is the Vcenter we are working on. So I basically powered off this VM and I restarted the VM, but it's not getting an IP address. I'm not able to say. I think the whole thing got screwed up now here.
Well, I kind of don't remember that we did a naming that way, Vcenter 5-1.
No, that was just the name.
Okay.
Of the VM. Actually, the name of the Vcenter is Vcent 5 only. See, it was called as Alvid VM. We renamed it. No, I can give it any name. That's nothing. That is not the problem. First of all, the problem is we're not getting this console. If I can get the console, at least I could log in and see.
What I'm saying is stop and start and see if it before.
We did that. I don't know. I did 2 times, right?
Press F5 and see.
Now here the problem is we are not getting the console. So this is a problem. I don't know why that is a problem.
I want to see if it can go to safe mode and see at least.
No, you cannot see anything on the screen, Shri. You're not understanding what I'm trying to tell you. You cannot see the screen, then how do you go to safe mode? There is no display on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Shit.
Hope we didn't change anything on the BIOS.
If the VM is up, it should ping. It's not going.
So what was the .64 you found it as a duplicate, like a clone?
That was somebody cloned this VM, so I deleted that. I deleted that also.
Oh, you deleted the whole VM, okay. You deleted fully or from the inventory?
No, I deleted fully. So this is, if this problem can be solved, it could have been done. Now we cannot even migrate it. Shoot.
Deepu. Hi, Deepu.
Restart ESX host. I don't know if it's going to solve the problem.
That's not the problem. You can check like that. You just create the new VM and use that VM DK file, so the same one. It might solve the problem, and you can see the problem of that.
Every VM is showing the problem. Okay, so I think I know the problem. And somebody ran this whole thing screwed up now. Somebody ran sysprep on this. Shit. Okay, so I don't know whoever done this. That's a problem. Somebody in the class has done that. They cloned that VM. They ran some sysprep on it. the customization on it, that whole VM got screwed up. Let's see now what happens. So now the console is coming, right? So that article I was reading, they were talking about it was not the ESX server problem, it is probably the computer you're trying to connect was causing the problem. They were trying to kill some problem. That's why I was trying to kill all the GoToMeeting and things like that. But that didn't solve the problem. And that's why I restarted and I came to another box. But now you see that I can actually see the console of the VM. So that was not a VM problem. That was not an ESX problem. That was my client machine problem. So now the host is coming up. Let us see what happens. So guys, please remember, please don't touch that box. Okay, don't make any change. You play, you learn everything with other servers. That is a very critical box. And please don't try to do that. Okay. You have so many other machines to clone. I don't know why you are cloning that. I don't know whose idea is that. Santosh, is that you?
Deepu, I was not even able to log in. Like if you check how many times I have logged into that 68 IP, you'll see
don't worry, I was just asking. You had more questions like, can you Vmotion that? Can you do that? So I thought,
It's like my first week of work, I have not even logged in over 2 weeks.
So people with more curiosity try to do this. That's why I pointed you. So that's a plus point for you. So don't worry about it. But please don't do it anyway, whoever it is. Somebody made 2 copies of it. We had seen all these problems. I hope it will come back. I hope it will come back. Let's see. Now it is taking more time because the domain controller is down. I think probably that's why. So I restarted my other server, right, which is my domain controller. So the DNS, everything is down now. Yeah, interesting. So we lost some good time. Shit. So how was Obama's debate, man, yesterday? Sri, what do you think?
I think he made it. It was awesome, actually.
I hope he will do the same thing for the Monday one, and that is it. It's still a very tight fight.
It is tight fight, but Romney was kind of changing. He's not consistent in the things that he's saying about some of this stuff. But no one can, beat the deficit. It's very difficult. And they're trying to beat around the bush, saying that they'll do the tax cuts that fellow says and this guy says differently.
Yep. Arvind is saying with the help of Candy. Nothing to do with Candy, man. I don't think she did anything, but Romney is actually a shrewd, He's not correct. He looks like he's a very shrewd person, I think. I mean, Arvind is saying Obama is again, but tell me what is wrong with Obama? What did he do wrong? You think he brought this company back from a big recession, right? When he got the company from Bush, what was the condition? I think he did an awesome job, man. And he was line by line, he was explaining, he killed Obama. Your Bush had 8 years. Did he do anything? He pulled back from Iraq. He did a lot of things, right? He did not deliver anything because he went for a bipartisan thing. He went and asked for the Congress to support. He could have done many things, and no president will do like that. He went for a compromise. He went and asked Congress to support him. The Congress didn't do that. The Republicans played dirty games there. That was the problem. That's why he couldn't do many things. Otherwise, he could have done many things, and he will do if he come back to power, and you can see that now. What else he can do? He need to restore the company to a stable state, right? I think that's it. You have a job, I have a job. It's all because of Obama. Otherwise, what would have happened? He gave example yesterday, right? When he got the company, the petrol price, gas price was $1.50 or something. That was because the country was about to collapse. So I don't think he explained everything. I don't need to tell. I think yesterday
he explained, and he also said that he is not an oil man like Bush.
Yeah.
to keep it $1.86. Come on, guys.
I mean, let's see what happens. If Obama loses, the company will go back to the same state. That's it. Nothing to happen. And I'm sure Romney cannot do any magic here. And he's definitely a shrewd person. He's going to do tax hike, everything. Wait and see. Whatever Obama cut, it's going to come back. Obama do not have a plan to bring economy back. Bringing up economy is not easy, man. It's not that easy as you think. Like one night you cannot bring that. Once it collapses, it is not. What's happening? Not only here. Why blame Obama? What is happening in Europe? What the heck is happening? This is all problems. This is all new Vcenter problems. Not able to kill a process. Interesting, right? So you better vote for Obama, man. So Raiden is there to help him also. Shit, everything is all right. So at last everything is back on. So let us now try something here. Let me do the class from here now. Okay, this is another problem. We saw that this browser does not support, right? That was another issue. Everything is problem today. Alright guys, so let's look here. Okay, that's fine. Let them do it. So here, let's look at it. So I'm on the vSphere web client. I'm trying, this is the first time I'm going to try. I'm going to do something here. Let's look at this CentOS VM which Satya has created. It looks like this is on the Dev network. So I'm going back. Epic. I'm just looking at this Ubuntu, this VM. So this is on which storage now? That's the thing I wanted to look at summary. I'm not very familiar with this. Okay, look at this. This is on local storage on 96, correct? And 96 is what server was 96? 96 was a problematic server. I cannot do that. So let me see if we can do a Vmotion of this. So it's on a local storage. I told you it is possible to do Vmotion even if it is in local storage, and that is what we are trying to do. So if you go to the migrate option, according to VMware, you can see the change host, change both host and data store. You see this option? This option will migrate, this option will Vmotion this VM even though this is on a local storage. I'm going to try that and see whether it is work, because I think it will give a CPU error. Let's see. Okay, it says compatibility check succeeded. You see that? Are you understanding what I'm trying to do here? This particular VM is on a local storage, but I told you the latest version of VMware will support even without shared storage, as long as the processor is fine. If I try to do this, it's not going to work. It's going to give me a memory error. It is checking that, but it is going to give. See, you can see that the request hardware feature or unsupported disabled target or general incompatibility. So it is talking about the same problem, the CPU ID problem. But if I do 96 or if I do 91, okay, here it is network problem. 97, what's the problem? Okay, it's a problem is only with the network interface card, uses QA which is not accessible. So what we need to do is first is let us change this VM. Hold on, I'm not very familiar with it, but we got to change this VM's network card. Edit settings. I'm putting on the VM network. You see that? I'm done that. Coming here. Migrate. Even though it's on a local storage, I'm getting that option checked. You remember when we were doing earlier, it was not giving that option. I'm doing that. I'm going to move it to 91. Right now it's on 96. Here it is currently on 96. So I'm moving it to 91. And here it is giving me an option. CD drive is using something. See, this is what I said. What has happened is when Aravind built it, he has a ISO file. These are all examples. This means an ISO file is attached to the CD drive of this VM. I told you if you have that, you cannot do Vmotion. Actually speaking, Vmotion can happen as long as you click it, but automatic Vmotions won't happen if you have something like this. Here it is a warning message, it's not a red alert. So you can do Vmotion. We will be stopping now, Raiden. I'm stopping now. I'm just showing this. I cannot teach anything more today. I just want to do this and we are going to stop it. So here is what is happening. Okay, are you understanding what I'm teaching, right? Are you getting what I'm saying, or you're only understanding Romney? All right, cool. So let's move this. I'm also curious to see how this is happening. So I can Vmotion it from a local storage to a public storage. So I'm going to move it to another local storage here. So it's going to work. I'm finished. So it is doing that Vmotion. Where we can see the status and all, I really don't know. It is Vmotioning, but how do we know it's Vmotioning or not? Monitor. Okay, here it is. Relocate virtual machine. It is going on now. So, get used to it, guys. Even I'm not familiar with it, but, good that I'm teaching. I'm getting used to it this a little bit because we have not started using Vcenter 5 really in our production. I'm still using, and even we have some lab servers that are running, but, I'm always comfortable with my vSphere client, but I know that in future that's going to go away. So this is the thing, but this is much more powerful. You see that, you can do a Vmotion without a shared storage like this. So if somebody asks you, is it possible? It is possible with ESXi 5.1 only with the help of web client. If you are using the normal vSphere client, you cannot do this, what we are doing now. So this takes two things. So this Vmotion is little different from what I explained earlier. This Vmotion process, first copy the complete, copying again, not moving. It copies the complete disk files. What is there in the storage from the first host to the second host, and then it do the transfer of the memory. That is the normal Vmotion. So it happens in two-stage process, but the first step is moving the storage and then moving the memory. But when we are doing that with when you do that with the shared storage, it does not have to do the storage Vmotion. You getting what I'm saying? That's the difference, and I think it is working. I'm curious to see how it is going to happen. It is almost 31%, but it's going to take some time because that was a big VM.
Deepu, what you said for memory will also be true for disk, right? The disk could change while you are copying.
What is that? I cannot hear you.
The disk contents can change while you are doing Vmotion. So what you said for memory about
I cannot hear. Sound was there, but all of a sudden it went off. Try again.
I will just type it, Deepu. I'll just type it.
Okay, now I can hear you. Go ahead. Tell me.
So there can be dirty storage reads also, right? Because the machine is running, people are constantly.
Correct. There can be, but that will be also taken care of the same way. But the dirty storage can be a very, very small portion compared to memory because, the storage, typically there won't be much changes. But that is also done with the same technique.
Okay.
But again, don't take my word completely because these are new technologies and I have not done any internal research on it, So because I don't get time, frankly speaking, because earlier I used to study a lot these times where I teach you, but now I spend my time with these classes, which is it is kind of affecting my, my knowledge part. Last 1.5 years, I'm not studying anything. I'm teaching only. So what I'm studying is only when I get some time at my work. So I don't know. That is a good question. I don't know how exactly what happens, but my thought process thinks that it will be doing the dirty disk copies also. So Aravind, when which state where are you now? You're in North Carolina, right? So that's a swing state. So what's the percentage there actually? Obama is leading there also, right? And I don't worry about Ryan because he's in New Jersey, and New Jersey is we don't care about New Jersey. New York, okay. Yesterday there was a question about green card. Did anybody notice that how these guys answered that? They didn't even know what green card was, I think. Not even Top Gun, man. At least Obama had the guts to talk a little bit more. Even Romney didn't have that because, yeah, he himself will have AK-47 at his house. So guys, if you want to wait, I think let us stop here, let this process happen. It is going to go through because it has to copy that whole thing. So let us stop, those who want to leave can leave. And we will do the class. There is class tomorrow. I send you meeting for tomorrow and day after. I got to do a lot of things, guys. And please don't do anything on the Vcenter, okay? We're going to start clustering tomorrow, and then we will move forward. So I'm actually stopping. We will look into this VM tomorrow about the Vmotion. If anybody get a chance, take a look at this Ubuntu Aravind. It should be moved to local_storage_91_01. It is powered on. It is currently running. You can see that all those things are happening here. If you do this, you can see that VM is actually running there. It is Vmotion is actually in progress though. No, I don't vote, man. I don't vote for Romney. No way. I in fact spend like quite some money to Obama, So no, I don't vote. All right, guys. Good night. We'll talk tomorrow.